Good morning, dear students. Now, after plant growth, now we are going to study the factors affecting growth. So, as you know that the growth is a permanent and irreversible increase in an organism. So, the growth in an organism, it is permanent and irreversible. Various factors that affect on growth of the plant has been studied here under the heading factors affecting growth. Growth is an effect of metabolic activities of the plant. As you know that when the synthesis is more than the utilization, then the growth occurs in the plant. So growth is an effect of metabolic activities of the plant when anabolic processes are more than catabolic, means when synthetic processes are more than the breakdown processes, that is the catabolic processes, there is synthesis and accumulation of various organic substances which results into the growth. There are various factors affecting the growth, and these factors can be broadly categorized as external and internal growth factors. So the various factors that affect on growth has been categorized as external and internal growth factors. Growth factors are considered to be all those sets of substances supplied externally or synthesized within the plant or cells. So one by one we are going to study these factors. So first we are studying the external factors. These factors are further categorized into climatic factors, edaphic factors and biological factors. So external factors are divided into three categories: climatic, edaphic and biological factors. So one by one we will study these external factors. So first one is the climatic factors. Climate is the atmospheric conditions of a particular region. It includes temperature, light, humidity, day length, wind, water and gases. Day length means daily illumination of sunlight, or one can say that the relative length of daylight available in a particular region, that is the day length. So climate is the atmospheric condition of a particular region. So climatic factors consist of temperature, light, humidity, day length, wind, water and gases. So one by one we will see all these factors. So the first one is the temperature. So temperature is an important factor which affects the various metabolic activities. Growth of higher plant takes place in the range of temperature from 0 degrees Celsius to 45 degrees Celsius. So this is the temperature range available for the growth of the higher plant, 0 degrees Celsius to 45 degrees Celsius. Every plant requires specific temperature below which growth is not possible. Maximum growth takes place at the optimum temperature of 28 degrees Celsius to 33 degrees Celsius. So this is the optimum temperature range, 28 degrees Celsius to 33 degrees Celsius. At each developmental stage, a different range of temperature is required for the growth of the plant. The optimum temperature required for growth differs from species to species. So each and every plant species having different temperature requirement. So this optimum temperature we made a range of 28 degrees Celsius to 33 degrees Celsius has been differs from species to species. If temperature rises above the optimum level, the rate of metabolic activities decreases and there is decrease of growth at maximum temperature of 45 degrees Celsius to 50 degrees Celsius. So the optimum temperature required for the growth of the plant has been changes, or it has been increased above this optimum level. The rate of metabolic activities of the plant has been decreases and there is decrease of growth at a maximum, or there is the growth has been stopped at a maximum temperature of 45 degrees Celsius to 50 degrees Celsius. It is observed that plants growing in warm climatic conditions require a higher optimal temperature, while those growing in cool climates requires lower optimal temperature. So the plant adaptation to the particular climatic conditions requires the different temperature range. So those plants which are growing in relatively warm climatic regions which requires a higher optimal temperature, while those plants growing in cool climates require low optimal temperature. So this optimum temperature range, that is 28 degrees Celsius to 33 degrees Celsius, has been differs from species to species. Plant growth is also influenced by daily change in temperature. Low temperature at the early seedling stage is a necessary factor which determines the shift from vegetative growth to reproductive growth. So the plant starts to produce flower after completing its vegetative growth. It depends on a low temperature at the early seedling stage. So at low temperature that has been given to some plants at an early seedling stage, which determines the flowering in such type of plant. So the plants shifts from vegetative growth to the reproductive growth. For example, the winter varieties of wheat, oat and rye are sown in the early autumn season so that the seedlings get exposed to low winter temperature and flower in summer. So this low temperature treatment, that is 0 to 5 degrees Celsius, is known as vernalization. So vernalization is required for shifting from vegetative phase to the reproductive phase of the plant. So due to the low temperature, when the seedlings are exposed to the low winter temperature, they start to produce flower in the summer season. So the low temperature treatment is required at the early seedling stage of the plant so that it determines the shift or a change from vegetative growth to the reproductive growth. So a low temperature treatment given to the plant to induce flowering, it is known as vernalization. In case of terrestrial plants, instead of chilling, high temperature treatment is required for early flowering. Low temperature reduces the rate of transpiration, lowers enzyme activities. Very low temperature causes chilling injury. High temperature increases rate of transpiration and photosynthesis and results in accumulation of organic compounds and increase the growth. At very high temperature above 45 degrees Celsius, enzymes get denatured and growth stops due to destruction of metabolic activities. So the optimum temperature is required for the growth of the plant. The very low temperature causes chilling injury, while low temperature reduces the rate of transpiration and lowers enzymatic activities. High temperature increases the rate of transpiration and photosynthesis that results in the accumulation of organic compounds and it increases the growth, while very high temperature, that is above 45 degrees Celsius, enzymes get denatured and growth stops due to the destruction in the metabolic activities. Next to the temperature, it is light. So it is another important factor which has pronounced effect on the plant growth. The light quality, light intensity and duration of light affect growth in various ways. So in this point we are going to discuss these three aspects of the light, that is the light quality, light intensity and duration of light. The various types of responses to the light are phototropism, photoperiodism and photomorphogenesis. The range of visible light between 380 nanometer to 770 nanometer has a physiological importance. Plants grow well in full spectrum of visible light. Light is necessary for photosynthetic activity. So the light, more precisely the range of visible light between 380 nanometer to 770 nanometer has physiological importance. The plant responses to such visible spectrum of the light are referred as phototropism, photoperiodism and photomorphogenesis. So light is necessary for photosynthetic activity. because as you know that the plants are autotrophic, they can synthesize their own food material by utilizing light. So light is necessary for photosynthetic activities. Rate of photosynthesis is highest in red light. So this is about the quality of the light, while it is low in blue and yellow light. Thus the light quality affects anabolic processes, that is the photosynthesis. So rate of photosynthesis, it is higher in the red light while it is low in blue and yellow light. In blue violet light, internodal length increases and leaves expand. Red colored light is favorable for growth. In dark, plant grows more rapidly, but mechanical tissues and pigments do not develop. So this is about the quality of the light. The red light or red colored light is favorable for growth. Further, light intensity has pronounced effect on photosynthesis, transpiration and indirectly on water and mineral absorption. As the light intensity increases, it increases the rate of transpiration. So more water and minerals has been absorbed from the soil by the root or the root hairs of the plant. Weak light intensity reduces photosynthetic rate, internodes becomes short and leaves are expanded. While high intensity light causes increase in atmospheric temperature and heating of leaf surface, that results in increasing rate of transpiration. Very high intensity of light causes heat injuries, wilting of the leaves and reduces rate of growth. Duration of light depends on the length of the day. Light period affects vegetative and reproductive growth of the plant. The flowering response of the plant to the light period is known as photoperiodism. So plant responses to this duration of light, a particular duration of light is required for switching from vegetative phase to the reproductive phase of the plant. Such flowering response of the plant to the relative length of light period and dark period, it is known as photoperiodism. So this is the third one aspect of the light, that is the duration of light, which having pronounced effect on the plant growth. It determines the shifts from vegetative growth to the reproductive growth of the plant. On the basis of photoperiod required to induce flowering, plants are classified as long day plants, means those plants which require relatively long period of long light period, short day plants which require a short period of light, and day neutral plant, the relative length of light period and dark period are immaterial in such type of plants. They are referred as day neutral plants. Under long day conditions, vegetative growth is profuse. Duration of light has an important role in inducing or suppression of flowering. So this is about the duration of light requires for flowering in the plant, and on the basis of photoperiod requirement to the plants or to the flowering plants, these plants are classified as LDP long day plants, SDP short day plants and DNP day neutral plants. Next factor is the humidity. So humidity, it is the moisture content of the atmosphere. High humidity in the atmosphere reduces temperature and light intensity. As you know that in rainy season, we generally the humidity is high in the atmosphere and there is low light intensity. So when there is a high humidity in the atmosphere, it reduces temperature and light intensity. Humidity between the 70 to 90% promotes growth. Low humidity, that is the dry air, causes desiccation of the plant and reduces growth rate. So humidity in between 70 to 90% is required for the promotion of the growth. Next is the wind. Strong wind current causes fluttering and bending of leaves. It increases rate of transpiration and creates water stress in plant, which results in decreased growth rate. Steady wind is useful for increasing humidity around the plant. So for normal growth and development of the plant, steady wind is required for increasing humidity around the plant. As you know that when the wind blows, it travel or it travel the moisture in the vicinity of the leaf. So due to this, it increases the rate of transpiration and creates a water stress in the plant. So this results into the decreased growth rate. Next factor is the water. So water is a major component of the protoplasm. It is necessary for hydration of organic compounds, as a solvent for organic and inorganic compounds, agents for conducting minerals dissolved in it. It requires for cooling, to maintain the pH and turgidity of the cell. So this is the role of water in the plant. Water is a major constituent of the protoplasm. It is required for absorption of the minerals from the soil, because the dissolved minerals are absorbed along with the water. Water is also required for maintaining the pH and turgidity of the cell. It is a solvent for various organic and inorganic compounds. So this is the necessity of the water for the plant growth. Plant roots under field condition grow into moist soil, while the stem and leaves grow in a relatively dry atmosphere. Hence, for the growth of the roots and to maintain roots in its active state, the moisture level of the soil should be maintained at the optimum by providing water. So here we provide water to the crop plant to keep the roots of the plant in an active state. So these roots remain active because the moisture level of the soil should be the optimum. So to do this, we provide water to the crop plant. So water, it should be present in the soil for the growth of the root and to maintain the roots in an active state. Water only in liquid state is useful to the plant. Good rainfall is necessary for the healthy growth of the crops. Vegetation can grow when sufficient water is available in the soil throughout the lifespan of the plant. Precipitation of water in the form of snow is not useful to the plant. So water in liquid state, it is useful to the plant, and rainfall is the source of the water, and it also increases the healthy growth of the crops. Vegetation or the plant growth can occur when sufficient water is available in the soil throughout the lifespan of the plant, while the water in the form of snow is not useful to the plant. Next external factor, that is the climatic factor, gases. Atmosphere consists of various gases in various proportion. Gases like carbon dioxide, nitrogen, oxygen are necessary for the physiological processes in the plant. So as you know that the atmosphere, it consists of various gases in various proportion. The carbon dioxide, it has been present, similarly nitrogen, oxygen. So these are the gases necessary for the physiological processes in the plant. CO2 is necessary for photosynthesis, oxygen is necessary for respiration, and nitrogen is essential for the synthesis of proteins, enzymes, hormones, amino acids. So these three gases, that is carbon dioxide, oxygen and nitrogen, are essential for the various physiological processes of the plant, of which CO2 is for photosynthesis, O2 is necessary for respiration, and nitrogen is essential for the synthesis of proteins, enzymes, hormones, etc. As you know the role of the carbon dioxide in the photosynthesis, if the atmospheric carbon dioxide has been increased to 0.1%, the rate of photosynthesis has been increases, so the plant shows vigorous growth. As you know that the atmosphere contains 0.03% of CO2. And if the percentage of CO2 is increased to 0.1%, the rate of photosynthesis increases. So plant shows vigorous growth. So this technique is used in greenhouse for increasing the yield of the crop. It is observed that the production of flowers and vegetables can be increased by 4 to 5 times by this technique. If the percentage of CO2 is increased beyond 0.1%, beyond 0.15%, it causes burning of shoot tips, uncontrolled growth, and less flower and fruit setting. So the CO2 concentration up to 0.1%, it increases the growth of the plant. While if the percentage of CO2 is increased beyond 0.15%, it causes negative effect on the growth that results in less flowering and fruit setting. Gases like SO2, nitrogen oxides, fluorine, chlorine, ozone are toxic to the plant. They retard the growth of the plant. So the gases like CO2, O2 and nitrogen, they are essential for the normal growth and development of the plant. So these are the climatic factors. Next to this is the adaptive factors. Adaptive factors are the soil factors. So soil is important for plants as it provides the minerals, water and support to the plant. Soil is the best medium for the growth of all types of microorganism. For plant, soil provides minerals, water and it also provides support to the plant. The structure, texture and nutrient availability of the soil are the important adaptive factors. So under the heading of adaptive factor, we are going to discuss the soil structure, soil texture and nutrient availability to the plant. So the first one is the soil structure. Soil structure means depth and nature of the topsoil and subsoil layers. It is necessary for healthy growth of the root system, because as you know that the roots are the organ of the plant which can able to absorb water and minerals from the soil. So the soil structure, that is the depth and nature of the topsoil and subsoil layer, are important for the normal growth and development of the plant. And if depth of this layer is less, plant growths get stunted. So plant shows less growth if the depth of this layer is less. So it is necessary for the healthy growth of the root system, that is the soil structure. Next is the soil texture. Soil texture means type of soil, whether it is clay soil, loam soil, silty soil, clay loam soil, silty loam soil, sandy loam soils. So these type of soil texture are good for the growth of the plants. These soils have higher water holding capacity. So water holding capacity is the amount of water held by or retained by the soil after the gravitational water has been drained out. So this is called as water holding capacity. So the clay soil, loam soil, sandy loam soil, silty soil, clay loam, silty loam soil. So such type of soil having higher water holding capacity. The soil texture directly influences soil water relationship, aeration and penetrability through it. It is also related to the nutrient status of the soil. For example, sandy soils are generally nutrient deficient, so not useful for the growth of the plant, because sandy soil contains more amount of sand than the clay particles. So such soil are generally nutrient deficient. Such soils also have very low water holding capacity. The water is easily drained out from such type of soil, that we called as sandy soil. So sandy soils are generally nutrient deficient and having very low water holding capacity, so it is not useful for the growth of the plant. Next to this is the nutrients. So the various nutrient elements are required for the normal growth of the plant. Nutrients necessary for healthy growth of the plants are broadly classified into two groups: macronutrients and micronutrients. So those mineral nutrients which are required in large quantity are referred as macronutrients, while those are required in less quantity, it is micronutrients. Macronutrients are nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium and sulfur. There are about 16 mineral elements that are said to be essential, of which nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium and sulfur are the macronutrients, while iron, manganese, boron, molybdenum, zinc, copper, sodium, cobalt and silicon, these are micronutrients. So these both macronutrients and micronutrients should be present in the soil in a required quantity. And deficiency of any mineral element causes various deleterious or negative effects on the plants. If they are present in levels higher than normal, they change the pH of soil and becomes toxic to the plants. These elements, if they are present in the soil at a level higher than the normal, they not get available to the plant because it changes the pH of the soil. So plant cannot able to absorb these mineral elements along with water through their roots. So such soil become toxic to the plant. So for healthy growth of the plant, all mineral elements should be present in the soil in the required amount and in the soluble forms. So this is all about the climatic factors and edaphic factors. In the next lecture, we will see the biological factors. Thank you.